Let's return now to the massive snub of Anthony Albanese by Donald Trump. And before Labor tries to spin this, have a listen to the country's leaders that Trump will meet with.
The president will also be hosting bilateral meetings with the UN Secretary General and the leaders of Ukraine, Argentina, and the European Union. The president will also later in the day hold a multilateral meeting with Qatar, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Indonesia, Turkey, Pakistan, Egypt, the UAE, and Jordan.
It's a joke. Let's bring in Greg Sheridan to discuss this now. Greg, thank you. I mean, everything I've heard from Labor's spin. We don't really need a meeting. It's actually a good thing that we're not having a meeting. Now we're apparently having a meeting at a reception for 100 other world leaders, as if you can do a pull aside and discuss something like AUKUS and nuclear submarine acquisition amongst every other leader of the world. I mean, is he going to follow him into the toilet? We've got to the point of high farce. And clearly this isn't about a direct clash anymore. This is about persona non grata status for Albanese.
Yes, Peter, it's great to be with you, and you're absolutely right. This is a comprehensive mismanagement of the critically important US relationship by Anthony Albanese. The Albanese government is governing in fantasy land, things where it can have no effect at all, Palestine and global warming, it grandstands. Things which vitally concern our national interest, mutual defence treaties with Papua New Guinea, security agreements with Vanuatu, preventing the Chinese from having their security agreement with Vanuatu, it cannot perform at all. So we cannot bend Port Vila to our will. We cannot secure an audience with our great ally, but we can apparently solve the Palestine problem. This is a government which is abdicating core national interests. Now, Trump is a very tricky and difficult customer, but he is the president of the United States. We need to have a relationship and influence with him. We want the alliance to survive. We want the Americans to be active in our region. We want the relationship to be as good as it can be while Trump's there. And Albanese has just taken a holiday from history.
Look, he's so shallow on foreign affairs. I mentioned at the top of the show, I think there's a real smallness about the Prime Minister, intellectual smallness on the global stage. How do we move past this? Because you're right, we can't even cut a deal with Vanuatu. We've got our former colony of PNG calling the shots with Beijing. We can't get in the Oval Office. I don't think we've even tried actually to get an Oval Office meeting because he's too scared of the optics of that. But we can't get a sit down with the president, 270 odd days now. How do you get it back on track here?
Well, the government has to concentrate on matters of substance that embody our core national interests and forget about its silly symbolism. Albanese's position on Palestine is probably essentially the same position he had when he was an undergraduate at Sydney University 1,000 years ago. But that's not governing Australia. Now, it may well be that recognising a Palestinian state contributed to Trump deciding not to meet Albanese this week. But this isn't just a social snub for Albanese. This is a message to everyone in Asia and to the whole world that Australia doesn't count with the Americans. Now, we have, as we've talked about many times, Peter, almost nil military capability of our own, no ability to defend ourselves, no independent satellites, no missiles, no missile defences. Hopeless. We're completely dependent on the Americans, and now we can't even secure a meeting. Trump has taken the decision that he has no interest in Albanese and that he places no value in anything that Albanese might say to him or any relationship with him whatsoever. Not since Gough Whitlam's disastrous prime ministership in the 1970s have we had such a lack of influence with a Washington administration. Meanwhile, our regional situation is going from bad to worse, and the government, instead of addressing these issues, just lives in a fantasy land.
I've got to ask you about all the hyperventilating today about the fact that the Israeli Foreign Minister had a phone conversation with Susan Lee and that it was initiated by the Netanyahu government. Now, I personally don't find it remarkable at all that the opposition leader should speak to the Israeli foreign minister. I think more people in our parliament should speak to the Israelis, frankly. In fact, more MPs should get off their backsides and go and visit Israel as well. But given that we have a different position to the government, given we've indicated that we would overturn this commentary at the United Nations, this recognition at the United Nations, I think it's fair enough that they have a one-on-one conversation to see, I guess, the extent of Susan Lee's position. But the government then going after Susan Lee and demanding that she should be bipartisan, that this is an Australian position now, even though the opposition has always opposed it, and I think many Australians oppose it. I think that's frankly out of line.
Oh, it's just absurd, Peter. It's just absurd. Labor has had a resolution to recognise a Palestinian state when it was bipartisan Australian policy not to recognise a Palestinian state until one came about at the end point of negotiations. So was the Labor Party therefore un-Australian to have that resolution opposed to then government policy? This is utterly ludicrous. You must have bipartisanism on the most basic strategic things, such as the importance of the American alliance or commitment to democracy or something. But it is Labor which has shattered decades of bipartisan policy, which was to support a two-state solution at the end point of negotiations between the parties, namely the Palestinians and the Israelis. So Labor has shattered a decades-long bipartisan position. And really, what on earth do they think is the harm in Susan Lee saying to everyone what she's saying in Australia, that she doesn't support that changed Labor position, that repudiation of the long-standing Australian position? Now, I myself am critical of recent Netanyahu government policy, but no criticism of the Israeli government justifies recognising a Palestinian state when no such state exists. Good on Susan Lee. I mean, the more initiative like this she shows, the better. And if it annoys the government, well and good. That's great, because you get good policy by having vigorous debate. And she is perfectly entitled to proclaim her policy on a matter like this where there is intense partisan disagreement, just as Labor always did in opposition as well.
Listen, let's not forget it took Albanese a long time to have a conversation with Bibi Netanyahu in the aftermath of October 7. It's good to see that there's dialogue, at least with the opposition. I'll leave it there, Greg. Thank you.